Dear learners, welcome back to WSE True Stories, where English learning becomes an unforgettable adventure. Today, we step into the life of one of history's most brilliant minds, a man who dared to challenge the heavens and risk everything in the pursuit of truth, Galileo Galilei. Imagine a world where the stars were mysteries, the earth stood at the center of the universe, and speaking against tradition could put your life in danger. Galileo was not just a scientist, he was a rebel of knowledge, a seeker of truth, and a man whose courage would inspire generations. This is not just a story about astronomy or experiments, it is a journey of hope, courage, and determination. As we follow Galileo's path, you will see how curiosity can become a powerful force, how resilience can overcome fear, and how one person's unwavering belief in evidence and reason can change the world forever. While you improve your English listening and comprehension, allow yourself to be inspired by the bravery, struggles, and extraordinary choices of a man who stared at the stars and refused to look away. Get ready for the most powerful and motivational story of discovery and courage. Let us step together into the life of Galileo Galilei, where every challenge holds a lesson, and every risk brings a chance to illuminate the truth. If you'd like to support our work, you're welcome to like, comment, share, or join us. Your support means a lot and helps us keep going. Galileo Galilei was born on February 15, 1564, in the city of Pisa, Italy, a place full of history, art, and the quiet hum of daily life. He came into a world very different from ours, where the sun, the stars, and the planets were thought to revolve around the earth, and questioning such beliefs was considered dangerous. Galileo's family was not poor, but neither were they among the richest. His father, Vincenzo Galilei, was a talented musician and a man with a sharp mind, who loved art, science, and the power of curiosity. From an early age, Galileo inherited his father's inquisitive spirit, a desire to understand how things worked, whether it was a musical instrument or the world above. Growing up in the Italian Renaissance, Galileo was surrounded by ideas that celebrated human potential and knowledge. Artists painted the human experience with astonishing beauty, architects built breathtaking structures, and thinkers explored philosophy, mathematics, and natural science. Yet, even in this world of innovation, the rules were strict, and authority, whether religious or academic, was not to be questioned lightly. People accepted the teachings of ancient scholars as unchangeable truths. To challenge them was to risk ridicule, isolation, or worse. From a young age, Galileo was fascinated by the mechanics of motion, the patterns of falling objects, and the mysteries of light and sound. His curiosity often made him restless in school, as he asked questions that teachers could not always answer. But it was this very curiosity, this urge to look closer, to test, to measure, that would define his life. Can you imagine being a young boy who dreamed of looking at the sky and knowing its secrets, while being warned that such questions could bring danger? How would you feel, knowing your curiosity could be seen as rebellion? These early years shaped Galileo's mind, planting the seeds of wonder and courage that would later push him to risk everything for knowledge. He learned to observe carefully, to think critically, and to trust evidence, even when it seemed to go against centuries of accepted wisdom. Little did he know, the same curiosity that brought him joy would also bring him into conflict with powerful institutions, setting the stage for a life of extraordinary struggle and remarkable achievement. As Galileo grew older, his fascination with the world only deepened. He moved from Pisa to the University of Pisa to study medicine, but his heart was never fully in it. The human body intrigued him, but it was the motion of objects, the falling of weights, and the mysteries of the heavens that truly captured his imagination. He began experimenting in secret, rolling balls down inclined planes and observing their speed, testing ideas that had been accepted without question for centuries. It was during these early experiments that Galileo began to sense a greater injustice. The world often rewarded tradition over truth, authority over evidence, and fear over curiosity. At the same time, Galileo's early successes brought him into the attention of the academic world, where not everyone was ready to welcome a young man with revolutionary ideas. Professors who clung to classical teachings saw Galileo's questions as threats. He found himself mocked for his insistence on measuring, observing, and questioning. Some called him arrogant, others whispered that he was dangerous. It was a delicate time, for challenging old ideas was not just a matter of academic debate, it could threaten social and religious order. Galileo faced his first real moral and intellectual dilemma: should he quietly continue his experiments in the shadows, keeping his revolutionary ideas hidden, or should he boldly share his discoveries, knowing that doing so could bring conflict with powerful institutions? He could feel the weight of this choice pressing on him. On one hand, he longed to explore the stars, to understand the universe, and to contribute something meaningful to humanity. On the other, the world around him was unforgiving, and the risks were real. Even in these early days, Galileo began to display the qualities that would define his life: courage, curiosity, and resilience. He refused to accept truths that were not supported by observation and evidence. He trusted what he could see, measure, and prove, even if others ridiculed or ignored him. Yet, the fear of consequences was never far away. Every discovery carried the weight of potential backlash. Every question asked could become a challenge to authority. Here, we might pause and ask ourselves, if you were in Galileo's place, would you risk ridicule and danger to follow your curiosity? Would you trust what you could observe over what everyone else tells you to believe? These are not easy questions, for they strike at the heart of courage and personal integrity. This period of Galileo's life set the stage for his first journey into both the excitement and the danger of discovery. The spark of curiosity became a flame, burning brighter than fear, yet he had not yet faced the trials that would truly test his resolve. The world was on the brink of change, and Galileo was about to step forward as one of the first to challenge centuries of unquestioned belief. Galileo's first true journey into the world of science was not marked by grand victories or public recognition, but by tireless observation, experimentation, and the quiet courage to challenge accepted truths. After leaving the University of Pisa, he accepted a teaching position in Padua, a city that offered him both freedom and opportunity. Here, Galileo could explore, teach, and invent without immediate interference from authorities. Yet, even in Padua, he was not free from obstacles. His work was demanding, meticulous, and often frustrating. Galileo spent hours observing the motion of pendulums, experimenting with inclined planes, and refining mathematical models to explain the physical world. Each success was a spark of joy, each failure, a reminder of the limits imposed by human understanding and by the tools of his time. He also began crafting telescopes, improving their magnification to levels unheard of, allowing him to gaze into the heavens as no one else had. With these instruments, the universe began to reveal its secrets: the craters of the moon, the phases of Venus, and the countless stars invisible to the naked eye. Every observation was a revelation, yet also a seed of conflict. Galileo's discovery started to challenge the geocentric view, the belief that the Earth was the center of the universe, a cornerstone of both scientific and religious thought. Sharing these ideas was dangerous. Scholars, clergy, and even colleagues viewed such claims with suspicion. Galileo experienced whispers behind closed doors, cold stares in lecture halls, and letters warning him to be cautious. Despite these pressures, he chose to publish his findings, believing that truth must shine even in the face of opposition. Teaching and mentoring became part of his journey as well. Galileo inspired students with his curiosity, showing them that observation and reason could unlock the universe's secrets. He often asked provocative questions. Why do objects fall as they do? Why do the planets move in the patterns we see? Through these questions, he encouraged others to think critically, to challenge assumptions, and to pursue understanding. His students admired his brilliance, but some feared the consequences of following a man who walked so close to controversy. The first journey was also one of personal struggle. Galileo had to navigate the tension between his devotion to science and the expectations of society. Could he honor both, or would he be forced to choose? The desire to advance knowledge pulled him forward, while the fear of punishment, of scandal, and of isolation weighed heavily on him. His nights were often restless, filled with calculations, observations, and reflections on the universe, and on the price of truth. Galileo's courage in these years was not the dramatic heroism of battle, but the quiet, persistent defiance of fear and ignorance. He understood that to see farther than others, one must risk the discomfort of being misunderstood. Every experiment, every measurement, every celestial observation was a small act of rebellion, a step toward a larger vision. At this stage of his journey, we might ask ourselves, when faced with a choice between safety and truth, which path would you take? Would you dare to question what everyone around you accepts, trusting only in what you can see and prove? Galileo's first journey teaches us that courage is often measured not by loud declarations, but by the quiet persistence to follow knowledge wherever it leads, even through uncertainty and opposition. These years laid the foundation for the challenges that were soon to come, and for the extraordinary courage that would define Galileo's life. He had begun to touch the stars, but the heavens, and the world, were not yet ready to accept the truths he revealed. Galileo's life took a dramatic turn with the arrival of one of his most powerful discoveries, the moons of Jupiter. Through his improved telescope, he observed 4 small objects orbiting the giant planet, a revelation that challenged the long-standing belief that all celestial bodies revolved around the Earth. This observation, though simple in appearance, carried enormous weight. If moons could orbit Jupiter, why could not the Earth orbit the Sun? The implications were revolutionary and dangerous. Eager to share his findings, Galileo published Sidereus Nuncius, the Starry Messenger, in 1610. The book described his observations in detail, including sketches of the moon's movements, the rugged surface of the moon, and countless new stars invisible to the naked eye. The scientific community reacted with a mixture of astonishment, admiration, and suspicion. Many scholars and thinkers celebrated Galileo's discoveries, calling him a genius. Yet, for the powerful forces of tradition, the Church in particular, this was a challenge that could not be ignored. The turning point came when Galileo's support of the heliocentric theory, the idea that the Earth and planets revolve around the Sun, became public knowledge. The Catholic Church, holding geocentric views as a theological cornerstone, considered this position heretical. Galileo was summoned to defend his beliefs, not merely as a scientist, but as a man accused of contradicting sacred authority. The simple act of observing and reporting celestial facts had now become an act of rebellion. Imagine the weight he must have felt, the respect of scholars on one side, and the looming threat of censure or worse from the Church on the other. Galileo's heart was heavy with both excitement and fear. For the first time, the pursuit of truth collided with the raw power of institutions unwilling to change. Could a single man's observations truly challenge centuries of established doctrine? Would knowledge triumph over authority, or would he be forced to remain silent? During this period, Galileo's personal life was also marked by tension. He worried about the safety of his family and students, and the long nights spent in study and observation began to take their toll on his health. Yet, despite fear and uncertainty, he remained steadfast. His writings from this time reveal a man who balanced caution with conviction, who sought allies among sympathetic scholars, and who carefully weighed every public statement, knowing that the wrong word could cost him everything. Galileo's turning point was not only a scientific awakening but also a profound personal challenge. He realized that discovery is inseparable from responsibility. Every revelation has consequences, and the pursuit of truth demands courage beyond the laboratory. This moment transformed him from a brilliant observer into a courageous advocate for knowledge, aware that his actions might forever alter both his life and the future of science. Here, we might pause to reflect. What would you do if the truth you discovered threatened the beliefs of everyone around you? Could you continue your work, knowing it might bring danger or opposition? Galileo faced this question and chose the path of integrity, showing that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite it. This turning point marked the beginning of a more intense struggle. The discoveries that brought him admiration also brought conflict, forcing Galileo to navigate the delicate balance between innovation and survival. He was now standing at the crossroads of history, where every decision could shape not only his fate but also the destiny of human understanding. The universe had begun to reveal its secrets, but the cost of speaking them aloud was higher than ever before. The years following Galileo's groundbreaking discoveries were some of the most intense and perilous of his life. His advocacy of the heliocentric system, which placed the sun at the center of the universe, had made him a target for the Catholic Church, which viewed such ideas as a direct challenge to scripture and authority. In 1616, the Church formally warned him not to hold or defend the Copernican theory. The warning was clear: speak of the sun-centered system as truth, and you risk your freedom, reputation, or even your life. Galileo faced a profound personal and moral dilemma. He had devoted his life to seeking the truth, observing the heavens, and challenging misconceptions. His experiments and telescopic observations were evidence of a universe far different from the one widely accepted. Yet now, he had to choose: continue his public advocacy and risk persecution, or obey the Church's edict, preserving his safety but silencing his convictions. The conflict was not merely external, it raged within him. Despite the looming threat, Galileo continued his work in private, refining his observations, writing carefully reasoned arguments, and corresponding with supportive scholars across Europe. His decision to continue, even cautiously, was an act of courage that required immense self-discipline. He understood that knowledge was not just personal, it belonged to humanity. Every time he hesitated or doubted, he reminded himself that discovery without communication could vanish like starlight in the day. In 1632, Galileo published Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems, a book that skillfully compared the Ptolemaic, earth-centered, and Copernican, sun-centered, models, making a compelling case for the latter. Though written as a conversation between fictional characters, the meaning was unmistakable. By presenting evidence with clarity and wit, Galileo challenged centuries of accepted belief without overtly defying authority. Yet the Church saw through the veil, interpreting his work as heretical. The ultimate confrontation came in 1633 when Galileo was summoned to Rome to face the Roman Inquisition. Imagine the tension, the long journey to the heart of power, the echoing halls where judgment awaited, and the knowledge that his fate, and possibly his life, hung in the balance. Before the tribunal, Galileo was forced to recant his support of heliocentrism. He faced a harrowing choice: publicly renounce what he knew to be true, or face imprisonment and death. Galileo's sacrifice was profound. He recited the words demanded by the Inquisition, though many historians believe his spirit remained unbroken. He accepted house arrest for the remainder of his life, a confinement that limited his freedom but could not restrain his intellect. Even in isolation, he continued to write, to observe, and to experiment. His later works, including studies on motion and mechanics, laid the groundwork for modern physics. Here we encounter a question that resonates deeply: if you knew the truth but were forced to deny it to survive, what would you do? Galileo's choice reminds us that courage often requires compromise without surrendering the essence of one's beliefs. True heroism is not always dramatic rebellion; it can be the quiet, steadfast commitment to knowledge, the resolve to continue learning and teaching, even under the shadow of threat. Galileo's ordeal became a symbol of the struggle between fear and conviction, authority and reason, tradition and progress. His life demonstrates that personal sacrifice can preserve the greater mission of advancing human understanding. Even when stripped of public influence, Galileo's mind remained free, his curiosity insatiable, and his legacy beginning to take shape. The climax of conflict, his confrontation with the Inquisition, was both a personal tragedy and a triumph of resilience. Galileo's choice to continue thinking, observing, and sharing knowledge, even in the face of danger, embodies the extraordinary courage that defines his story and the enduring spirit of discovery. Even under house arrest, Galileo's mind continued to soar far beyond the walls that confined him. Though the Church had silenced his voice in public, it could not silence his curiosity, his reasoning, or his dedication to uncovering the laws of the universe. In the solitude of his home, Galileo wrote some of his most influential works, including discourses and mathematical demonstrations relating to two new sciences, a masterpiece that laid the foundation for modern physics. Through these studies, he examined motion, acceleration, and the principles that would later guide Isaac Newton's work. Galileo's achievements were not merely scientific; they were a triumph of human perseverance. He had shown that observation, experimentation, and rational thinking could reveal truths that centuries of unquestioned belief could not. His discoveries transformed humanity's understanding of the universe, shifting the perspective from an Earth-centered cosmos to one in which humans were part of a vast, dynamic system. The stars, the planets, the moon, all became subjects of inquiry, not just symbols of divine order. Despite personal suffering, Galileo's courage inspired generations. Scholars, students, and thinkers across Europe were influenced by his methods and his ideas. He demonstrated that intellectual honesty and dedication to evidence could withstand the weight of authority. Even the Church eventually acknowledged his contributions to science, and today, he is celebrated not only as a brilliant astronomer and physicist but also as a symbol of resilience, courage, and the power of the human mind. Galileo's victories were also moral. He had chosen integrity over safety, knowledge over comfort, and inquiry over complacency. His life teaches us that true achievement is rarely without struggle and that greatness often requires enduring hardship while remaining faithful to one's principles. Even in confinement, Galileo's work continued to illuminate the world, proving that limitations of the body need not constrain the freedom of thought. Can you imagine the satisfaction he must have felt, knowing that the observations he made, the experiments he conducted, and the knowledge he pursued would endure far beyond his lifetime? How would it feel to see the universe more clearly than anyone before you, even if you could not openly share your discoveries? These are questions that allow us to step into Galileo's shoes, to understand the depth of both his struggle and his triumph. Galileo's story is a vivid reminder that victory is not always measured by immediate recognition or applause. Sometimes, it is the quiet impact of ideas, the gradual awakening of minds, and the unyielding pursuit of truth that define success. The achievements of Galileo Galilei are both tangible, in the laws of motion, the telescope, and the maps of the heavens, and intangible, in the courage, integrity, and resilience that his life continues to inspire. Through his victories, Galileo affirmed that human curiosity is boundless and that the pursuit of knowledge, even in the face of danger and opposition, can transform not only one life but the entire course of human history. His legacy reminds us that every observation, every question, and every step toward understanding is a triumph of the human spirit. Galileo Galilei's life was a journey of courage, curiosity, and unwavering commitment to truth. From a young boy in Pisa, fascinated by the motion of falling objects, to a man confronting centuries of established belief, his story is a testament to the power of the human mind and the resilience of the human spirit. He faced ridicule, fear, and persecution, yet never allowed these obstacles to extinguish his curiosity or his pursuit of understanding. The legacy of Galileo is not limited to telescopes, moons, or the laws of motion. It extends to the values he embodied: integrity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. He taught the world that questioning what seems certain, observing what is often ignored, and thinking independently are not acts of rebellion, they are the essence of discovery. Every scientist, thinker, and dreamer who followed owes a debt to Galileo's bravery in stepping beyond the boundaries of convention. His life also reminds us that true progress often comes at a personal cost. Galileo sacrificed freedom, comfort, and peace to stand by what he knew was right. Yet, in doing so, he created a foundation upon which modern science could flourish. His story is a powerful lesson that adversity and challenge are not barriers to achievement, they are the crucible in which character, vision, and determination are forged. For learners of English, Galileo's journey offers more than historical knowledge, it is a mirror to reflect on our own challenges. How do we respond when our ideas or ambitions are questioned? Do we seek comfort, or do we embrace the risk inherent in pursuing what we believe is true and meaningful? Galileo's life encourages us to face these questions with courage and resilience, knowing that the pursuit of understanding, no matter how difficult, can illuminate the path forward. As we look at the night sky, we can remember Galileo's courage in lifting his telescope to the heavens and daring to see the universe as it truly is. His legacy is not just in science, but in the enduring reminder that truth, curiosity, and courage have the power to transform the world. Dear learners, as we reach the end of Galileo Galilei's remarkable story, let us pause to reflect on the lessons his life offers. He was a man who dared to look beyond the familiar, to question the unquestionable, and to pursue truth even when it meant risking everything. Galileo's courage reminds us that each of us has the power to face challenges, to explore the unknown, and to follow our curiosity, no matter how daunting the path may seem. Think for a moment, what truths in your life are waiting to be discovered? Are there dreams or questions you have been afraid to pursue? Galileo's story encourages us to move forward with integrity and courage, trusting in our capacity to learn, grow, and make a difference. He once said, "All truths are easy to understand once they are discovered, the point is to discover them." This reminds us that discovery is a journey, not a destination, and that perseverance, curiosity, and bravery can unlock understanding in ways we cannot yet imagine. If Galileo's story inspired you, share it with others. Let the courage of this remarkable man ripple outward, encouraging friends, family, and peers to embrace curiosity, challenge assumptions, and pursue knowledge. Your support helps us continue to create stories that educate, inspire, and empower learners around the world. Like, comment, and subscribe to join us on this journey of learning and inspiration. Carry forward the spirit of hope, curiosity, and resilience, and remember that the universe is vast, full of mysteries waiting for those brave enough to explore it. Until next time, keep learning, keep dreaming, and keep looking up at the stars. Goodbye for now.